Welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. Today we're starting at the Delong Reservation, or at least at markers around that area. This is one of the few areas that actually has parking. And so I'm actually standing in the parking lot right here. The truck's parked over there. And we're going to look at the markers in this area and just continue along Crest Road. There's just so many markers along this road. This marker's for the 9th Kentucky Infantry, General S. Beatty's Brigade, Colonel George H. Cram, November 25th, 1863, 5 killed, 30 wounded. Here's another sign of the Union casualties. It looks to me like it's the same as the other one that I saw. Grand total of 5,824 killed, wounded, or missing. Here's the 31st Ohio Infantry, Turchin's Brigade, Bairds Division, 14th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Frederick W. Lister. The morning of November 25th, the 31st, with its brigade and division, marched to support General Sherman at Tunnel Hill. Returning, it formed with the brigade on the left of Wood's division. In the assault on the ridge, the 31st reached the crest about this point and, moving to the left, assisted in the capture of several sections of artillery. November 26th, the regiment joined the pursuit to Ringgold. Casualties: killed 1 officer, 10 men, wounded 2 officers, 34 men, for a total of 47. Here's Waters' Alabama Battery, Major Alfred R. Courtney's Artillery Battalion, Hindman's Anderson's Division, Hardee's Corps. The battery held this position during the Union assault of the ridge and opened with all possible rapidity and continued to fire till the enemy had gained the ridge on the left and proceeded to roll the thin Confederate line toward the north. Seeing it impossible to check the advance of the victorious column on the ridge and not being able to depress the guns to inflict serious loss on the rapidly approaching lines in front, the battery, after rolling 1 gun down the ridge, withdrew the remaining 3 guns over the ridge in rear, but these were intercepted by the rapid advance of the enemy on the left and captured on the slope of the ravine east. Losses: 4 guns, some men, caissons, and horses. Here we have another tower for the 2nd Minnesota. This was erected by the state of Minnesota in 1863. And we'll pan up and let you see the top of the tower. Here's a list of the men that were killed on November 25th on 1863. There were 185 men that engaged, and these men... This side it says the 2nd Minnesota Regiment of Veteran Volunteers. I just can't read that. Here's another one of the Confederate casualty signs. It looks to me like it's the same as the previous one as well. And it looks like there was a grand total of 6,667 killed, wounded, or missing. Turchin's Brigade, Baird's Division, Palmer's Corps, Brigadier General John B. Turchin. There's like several divisions from Ohio and one from Indiana. This brigade was sent to Sherman at the tunnel in the forenoon of the 25th, returning to the center about 2 p.m. The brigade was the right of the division, with S. Beatty's Brigade of Woods on its right and VanDerveer's on its left. One of its flags was the first of the division to reach the crest. Upon reaching the crest, it moved northwardly to the assistance of other brigades of the division, then climbing the ridge in front of the brigades of Vaughan, Jackson, and Moore. After a short and stubborn contest, the ridge was carried to the elevated point about 1,060 yards north of this. Casualties: killed 50, wounded 231, missing 3. And here's a marker for the Delong Reservation. It's a National Park Service, the Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park. Here's overlooking the park. This is the 89th Ohio Infantry, Turchin's Brigade, Bairds Division, 14th Corps, Captain John H. Jolly. The morning of the 25th, the 89th, with its brigade and division, marched to support General Sherman at Tunnel Hill. Returning, it formed with a brigade on the left of Wood's division. During the battle, the regiment was consolidated with the 82nd Indiana. In the general assault, it carried the rifle pits in its front and reached the crest near this point, assisting in the capture of several guns. On the 26th, it marched with the brigade in pursuit to Ringgold, returning on the 29th to Chattanooga. Casualties killed were 3 men, wounded 1 officer, 13 men, for a total of 17. This is the 92nd Ohio Infantry, Turchin's Brigade, Bairds Division, 14th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Putnam, Jr., Captain Edward Crosvenor. The morning of the 25th, the 92nd, with its brigade and division, marched to support General Sherman at Tunnel Hill. Returning, it formed with a brigade on the left of Wood's division. In the general assault, the regiment gained the crest about this position near the summit. Colonel Putnam was severely wounded while leading his regiment. The guns in front of the line were captured, and the regiment moved to the left of the crest and took part in the close of the battle and in the pursuit to Ringgold. Casualties killed were 2 officers and 10 men, wounded 3 officers and 43 men, for a total of 58. 105th Ohio Infantry, VanDerveer's Brigade, Bairds Division, 14th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel William R. Tolles. On the morning of the 25th, this regiment marched with its division to the assistance of General Sherman at Tunnel Hill and returned with it in time to take part in storming Missionary Ridge. It reached the summit at this point, capturing 1 gun and 2 artillery horses. It wheeled at once to the left and was engaged on the crest till the battle closed at dark. It marched the next day in pursuit, and on the second day reached Ringgold. Casualties killed 1 man, wounded 10, for a total of 11. Baird's Division, Palmer Corps, Brigadier General Absalom Baird. On the 23rd of November, this division supported the right of Granger's Corps in its advance on Orchard Knob. At 11 a.m. November 25th, it was ordered to General Sherman and reported to him near Tunnel Hill. Thence it returned immediately to the center and formed on the left of Wood's division of Granger's Corps. At 3:15, it advanced against Missionary Ridge, being the left of the assaulting line. Phelps Brigade was on the left, VanDerveer in the center, and Turchin on the right. It carried the earthworks at the foot of the ridge, reformed its lines in them, and thence charged to the summit. The center of the division reached the crest at this point. The 35th Ohio Infantry, VanDerveer's Brigade, Baird's Division, 14th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Henry V. Boynton. During the forenoon of November 25th, Baird's Division was sent to the assistance of General Sherman at Tunnel Hill. It returned to take part in the storming of Missionary Ridge. The 35th moved its brigade in assault, reaching the summit about this point, capturing 3 guns, a caisson with 6 horses, a battle flag. Colonel Boynton was severely wounded on the slope. The regiment was engaged on the crest to the left until the close of the battle. It took part in the pursuit to Ringgold. Casualties killed were 6 men, wounded 3 officers and 19 men, captured 2 men, for a total of 30. Scott's Tennessee Battery, Major Alfred R. Courtney's Artillery Battalion, Hindman's Division, Hardee's Corps. Lieutenant John Dosher commanding. During the assault of the Army on the Cumberland on the ridge the afternoon of November 25, 1863, one section of the battery occupied the crest of the ridge in rear of this ground under command of Lieutenant Watson, with one section posted at the head of the first ravine north under command of Lieutenant Dosher, and kept up a rapid fire on the advancing lines of the enemy till the ridge was carried on a projecting spur south of this position, where the observation tower now stands, thus enabling the line on the ridge to gain the flank and the rear of the guns while fiercely engaged with the assaulting lines in front. The men stood to their posts till the enemy was among the guns. The battery was reluctantly abandoned with the loss of 3 guns, many horses, and a few men. One gun escaped and crossed the Chickamauga in safety. VanDerveer's Brigade, Bairds Division, Palmer's Corps, Colonel Ferdinand VanDerveer. The brigade was sent to reinforce Sherman at the tunnel the forenoon of the 25th, was returned to the center about 2 p.m., the brigade being the center of the division with Turchin's brigade on its right and Phelps's brigade on its left. The 2nd Minnesota covered the front as skirmishers and captured the enemy's rifle pits. The brigade moved in 2 lines. Its center reached the crest at this point, formed across the ridge, marched northward, and reports the capture of 6 guns. Strength in action, 1,679, killed 20, wounded 141, missing 2. Vaughan's Brigade, Hindman's Division, Hardee's Corps, Colonel Alfred J. Vaughan, Jr. Previous to the occupation of the crest of Missionary Ridge by Bragg's army on the night of November 24th, Hindman's Division, commanded by Brigadier General Patton Anderson, held the right of the entrenchments of that army at the base of the ridge facing Chattanooga. The line was sufficiently advanced to admit the camps of the command between the ridge and the rifle pits. Vaughan's brigade held the extreme right with Diaz's brigade on its left. The right of the brigade on the ridge extended to the next knoll north. Scott's Tennessee Battery, Lieutenant John Dosher commanding, occupied position on the line of the brigade in 2 sections. In the general assault upon the center of the afternoon of November 25th, when the ridge had been carried near the observation tower, the brigade was formed across the ridge, its right remaining at the crest. The position held by the brigade was carried by a part of Baird's Division, which was the left division of the assaulting lines. About dusk, the brigade retreated to the Chickamauga, crossing it during the night by the Shallow Ford Road. The 9th Ohio Infantry, VanDerveer's Brigade, Baird's Division, 14th Corps, Colonel Gustav Kamerling. During the forenoon of the 25th, the regiment marched with its brigade and division to the assistance of General Sherman at Tunnel Hill. The division returned in time to take part in the storming of Missionary Ridge. The 9th reached the summit at this point, and moving immediately to the front and left, was engaged until the close of the battle at dark. The next day, the regiment joined in the pursuit, continuing to Ringgold. Casualties: killed 2 men, wounded 12 men, for a total of 14. McCant's Florida Battery, Major Melathan Smith's Artillery Battalion. On the afternoon of November 25, 1863, at the time of the advance of the enemy on the ridge, one section of 6-pounder guns occupied the crest of the ridge in the rear of this position, and one 10-pounder Parrott and one 6-pounder. The point on the ridge, 750 yards north, where a road reached the crest from the front, and were actively engaged during the assault. The rapid advance of the Union forces after reaching the crest south of this position, approaching from the flank and the rear, killing and wounding many horses, this section was abandoned where it stood, and the section in action 750 yards north of this position, after efficient service firing in the flank of the advancing lines, retired without loss across the Chickamauga. Losses: 2 guns, 10 horses, and a few men. Cheatham's Division. The artillery battalion, commanded by Major Melathan Smith, was composed of the Alabama Battery Captain William H. Fowler, Florida Battery Captain Robert P. McCant, Georgia Battery Captain John Scogan, and Smith's Mississippi Battery Lieutenant William B. Turner. During the night of the 24th of November, the division, excepting Wright's brigade, was withdrawn from Lookout Mountain and sent to the right on Missionary Ridge, taking position on the right of Hindman's, Patton Anderson's, division. Wright's brigade, which had been holding Charleston, Tennessee, was moved by rail on the evening of the 23rd to Chickamauga Station and thence to the east bank of the Chickamauga, where it operated during the battle between the Shallow Ford and the lower railroad bridges. This one is actually continued. When General Baird's division, which was the left of the assaulting line of the Army of the Cumberland, had carried the ridge in the vicinity of the observation tower to the south of this position about 5 p.m. November 25th and turned northward, Jackson's brigade was thrown across the ridge to face it. Moore's brigade was moved by the flank in the rear and to the left of Jackson's. Jackson's brigade came way and fell back through the ranks of Moore's, but the latter checked the movement and the two brigades fought as one until nearly dark, when they retired down the ridge. Walthel's brigade, having formed line across the ridge while under fire and extending down the slope on the first high ground north of the position from which Moore and Jackson had retired, held its ground against Baird's advance until fighting ceased after dark. The division withdrew toward Chickamauga Station by way of the railroad bridge. The Phelps Brigade, Baird's Division, Palmer's Corps. Except for the 18th Kentucky, which was detached, this brigade was sent to Sherman at Tunnel Hill the forenoon of the 25th. It returned about 2 p.m. and became the left of the assaulting lines. Its left resting on the Southern Railroad, with VanDerveer's on the right. The brigade moved in two lines. The center of the brigade reached the crest near this position, and the right joined the 2nd Brigade near the head of the ravine south, and the left climbing the ridge through the head of the deep ravine north. Colonel Phelps being killed there as he reached the summit. The line was formed facing north, and after a short and fierce engagement, VanDerveer's brigade participating, the ridge was carried to the high point about 220 yards north of this. Killed were 18, wounded 100, and missing 1. Jackson's brigade, Cheatham's division, Hardee's Corp, Brigadier General John K. Jackson. This brigade withdrew at 2:30 a.m. November 25th from the left of the entrenchments between Chattanooga Creek and Lookout Mountain. It joined the other brigades of the division in the vicinity of Rossville. Early in the morning of the brigade, with the division marched north on Missionary Ridge and was posted on the right of Vaughan's brigade of Hindman's division, with Moore's brigade on its right. When the enemy had carried the ridge to the left, the brigade was thrown across the crest, its left extending down the eastern slope. Moore's brigade was ordered to the left of Jackson to cover the base of the ridge and support that brigade. Both brigades being under heavy fire, this line retired shortly before dark. Here is a monument for Colonel E.H. Phelps. He was mortally wounded near this spot at about 5:30 p.m. November 25, 1863. The 14th Ohio Infantry, Phelps Brigade, Baird's Division, 14th Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Henry D. Kingsbury. On the morning of the 25th, after marching to Tunnel Hill to support General Sherman, the division returned and formed the left of the line for assaulting Missionary Ridge. The 14th held the extreme left of the assault, with the 38th Ohio in front of it in the first line. The regiment reached the crest at this point and became successfully engaged with forces which had been driven to the left. On the 26th, it marched with its brigade in pursuit toward Ringgold, and on the 28th helped destroy the railroad for some distance beyond that point. Casualties killed were 3 men, wounded 17 men, for a total of 20. The 38th Ohio Infantry, Phelps Brigade, Baird's Division, 14th Corps, Major Charles Greenwood. During the forenoon of the 25th, the division was sent to Tunnel Hill to the support of General Sherman. It returned in the afternoon and became the left of the line for assaulting Missionary Ridge. The 38th held the extreme left of the storming line, with the 14th Ohio in its rear. Forming the extreme left of the second line, both regiments reached the crest simultaneously. the 38th at this point. The line became at once engaged with troops which had been forced to the left. The next day it joined the pursuit, reaching Ringgold the 27th. On the 28th, it helped destroy the railroad for some distance beyond. Casualties: killed 2 officers and 7 men, wounded 3 officers and 34 men, for a total of 46. Hardee's Corps, Cheatham's and Walker's divisions held the left of the Confederate line from Chattanooga Creek to the base of Lookout and the north slope of the mountain. After the loss of the mountain, Cheatham's division was withdrawn during the night on November 24th to Missionary Ridge. Walker's division, having been withdrawn from the eastern base of Lookout Mountain to the extreme right of the army of the evening of November 23rd. Buckner's division, under command of General Johnson, was dispatched November 22nd to report to General Longstreet in East Tennessee. Before the battle began on the 25th, Hindman's, Cheatham's, and Walker's divisions had prolonged Bragg's line on Missionary Ridge to within 3/4 of a mile of the tunnel. Portions of Cheatham's and Walker's divisions attacked General Baird's division after it had reached the summit of Missionary Ridge to the left of the Army of the Cumberland's assault, but did not succeed in repulsing it. After dark, the Corps withdrew in order and unmolested by the bridges over Chickamauga. Baird's division, left of assault, November 25th, 1863. Moore's Brigade. This brigade withdrew about 2 a.m. November 25th from Lookout Mountain near the Craven's house and bivouacked at Rossville. Early on the 25th, with its division, it marched north on Missionary Ridge and was placed here with Walthel's brigade on its right and Jackson's on its left. When the enemy carried the center of the ridge, his line of assault involved the troops on the left of Jackson. That brigade was then thrown across the ridge, its right resting on the crest and its left extending toward the foot of the eastern slope. Moore's brigade was ordered to march by the flank in rear and to the left of Jackson. Both brigades received heavy fire from the troops of Baird's division, which had gained the crest on the south. Just before dark, these 2 brigades withdrew toward Chickamauga. Behind this fence is a little marker that says section of McCant's battery. Well, I hope you like this series of markers along Crest Road. There certainly is a lot of them. We're definitely continuing on until we hit them all. And so stay tuned for our future episodes. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in future episodes of Historical Markers.